In this video, an insane Karen neighbor parked her semi-truck in front of my business to ruin me. She was breaking the law but ended up regretting it. Here is what happened. Welcome back to Ripe Stories. This story is from r/legal advice. So I, 38 male, own a small organic grocery store called Fresh and Local Market in downtown XYZ. We've been operating for about 4 years now, and things have been going really well. We work directly with local farmers, have a rooftop garden where we grow some of our own produce, and run weekly cooking classes. The community has been incredibly supportive, and we have built up a loyal customer base. The problem is my neighbor, Karen, mid-50s, who owns Business XYZ, one of those dying overpriced grocery stores about 3 blocks away. She's been giving me grief ever since I opened, claiming that I am stealing her customers. Look, I get that competition can be tough, but I'm just trying to run my business here. Her store honestly is not doing great, the produce is often wilted, the shelves are disorganized, and their prices are actually higher than ours for lower quality stuff. This morning I arrived at 6 AM to prep for our morning delivery, and there was a massive semi-truck completely blocking both our main entrance and the loading dock. No company markings, no delivery notice, just nothing. It was strategically parked to make it impossible for customers to get in or for our produce delivery to arrive. I immediately recognized it as one of Karen's delivery trucks. She got a small fleet for her store. I tried calling her multiple times, but she wouldn't pick up. Finally, I walked over to her store to confront her. The conversation went something like this. Me, Karen, you need to move your truck right now. You're blocking my business illegally. Karen with this smug smile. Oh, am I? That's funny because I don't see any no parking signs there. Maybe if you were not stealing all my customers, I wouldn't need to park there. Me, this is not a game. You're preventing my deliveries and customers from accessing my store. I will have to call the police and have it towed. Karen, go ahead. My brother-in-law's on the city council. Nothing will happen. Maybe this will teach you to stop undermining established businesses in this town. I took photos and videos of everything, the truck's position, my conversation with Karen, timestamps of my calls to her. I've already lost this morning's delivery of fresh produce. They had to return to the farm, and I've had multiple customers turn away because they couldn't park. What are my legal options here? I know I can call a tow company, but I want to make sure I'm covering all my bases legally. She has cost me thousands and lost business today alone, and I'm worried she'll try something like this again if I don't handle it properly. And yeah guys, if you have any advice for OP, let me know what you would do in this situation. I'm really curious. Either way, one comment said, former property manager here, call the police and non-emergency line and a towing company immediately. The truck is illegally blocking access to your business and loading dock. Also take photos of everything and document all losses, turned away deliveries, customers who couldn't access your store, etc. and save any security camera footage you have. You will want this documentation for both insurance and potential legal action. Comment number 2 said, LOL, just slash her tires, that will teach her. And well guys, indeed, that would teach her, but then again, that would open OP up to potential issues with the police. Comment number 3, NAL, aka not a lawyer, but a business owner. File a police report immediately. What she is doing could constitute tortious interference with business relations. Or tortious, I'm not sure. Either way, document everything, all losses, customer complaints, delivery issues, and keep the communication with her in writing going forward. You might have a solid civil case here. Comment number 4, from experience working with city planning, most areas have specific regulations about blocking loading docks. Check your local ordinances, and also, if she admitted to deliberately blocking your business, that's a whole different legal issue than just illegal parking. Comment number 5, bro, just tow it, why are you even asking Reddit? And he is kind of right there. Either way, comment number 6, lawyer here, you need to call the police, file a report, have it towed legally through a licensed company, document all losses, and send her a certified letter demanding that she cease and desist this behavior. Also consider filing for a temporary restraining order if this is part of a pattern of harassment. This is not just about today's incident, you are establishing a paper trail for what could become a larger legal issue. Comment number 7, have you tried talking to her boss? Corporate might want to know how their franchise owner is behaving. Comment number 1 said, thanks for all the advice everyone. I called the police, non-emergency line and a towing company. While waiting, I documented everything and started calculating losses. The police arrived first and confirmed the truck was illegally parked and blocking a business entrance and loading dock. Here's where it gets better though. Karen showed up just as the tow truck was getting into position. She started screaming about how she would sue everyone involved. The police officer, bless him, just calmly informed her that she was breaking multiple ordinances and could either move the truck immediately or have it towed at her expense. She refused to move it, claiming that she lost the keys. The officer was not having it though and authorized the tow. The whole time, Karen was recording on her phone and threatening to call her lawyer, but now she is escalating. She has posted negative reviews about my store online, and I've heard from other business owners that she is trying to organize a boycott. She has also parked her personal vehicle in front of my store twice today, though in legal spots, and taken photos of customers entering my store. Should I pursue legal action beyond the towing incident? She is now actively trying to damage my business's reputation. I've saved screenshots of everything, by the way. She is now moved from simple interference to harassment and potential defamation. Save those screenshots and start keeping a detailed log of every incident. Comment number 2, business lawyer here. What she is doing now is actually worse legally speaking than the truck incident. She is demonstrating a pattern of intentional interference with your business. Save all evidence of her attempted boycott and false reviews. If you got security cameras, save the footage of her photographing your customers. That could be interpreted as customer harassment too. Comment number 3, it sounds like someone needs a restraining order. Comment number 4, the fact that she's doubling down after police involvement is concerning. Consider sending a cease and desist through a lawyer. The letter itself might not have legal weight, but it shows that you are serious and creates a paper trail. Update number 2. Thank you for the advice. It's been 3 weeks and I wanted to update everyone on how this situation got resolved. So following your suggestions, I hired a business attorney who specialized in commercial disputes, had them send a formal cease and desist letter regarding both the harassment and false reviews, and filed for a temporary restraining order based on the pattern of harassment. Kept meticulous records of all interactions and losses, and the cease and desist letter really got her attention, especially when my lawyer included documentation of all her actions and the potential legal consequences. We also included an itemized list of damages from the truck incident, lost deliveries, customer receipts from the same day last week, showing lost business, etc. But Karen decided to ignore the letter. Not only that, but she doubled down and started telling people that I was threatening her. She even called the health department on us for a surprise inspection, which we passed with flying colors, by the way. Our rooftop garden actually impressed the inspector. Here is where karma kicked in. Remember that city council brother-in-law she bragged about? Well, it turns out he's no longer on the council, and the current members were very interested in hearing about a local business owner using semi-trucks to deliberately block competitors. The city got involved after multiple complaints. It turns out we were not the only business she had harassed, just the most recent, and they then launched an investigation into her store's compliance with various ordinances. Suddenly, Karen had bigger problems than my successful business. Her store had multiple violations that would require expensive repairs to fix. The final straw was when she tried to claim in her online posts that our produce was unsafe and illegally sourced. My lawyer said this was textbook defamation per se, since it was attacking our business practices with provably false statements, so we filed a defamation lawsuit. Karen finally broke when her own corporate headquarters got wind of everything. Thanks to the user who suggested contacting them, they were not happy about the potential liability and negative publicity, so they gave her an ultimatum. Either sell her franchise or they would terminate her contract. So then, she is now selling her store to another franchisee. The new owners seem much more professional and have already reached out to discuss ways we can coexist as businesses. They are planning to focus more on bulk and conventional groceries while respecting our niche in organic and local produce. As for the legal side, we settled out of court. The terms are confidential, but let's just say it covered all our losses and legal fees. She has also had to publish a retraction of her false statements and remove all negative reviews. The best part though, our business is doing better than ever. The community really rallied around us during all this, and we have gained quite a few loyal customers. We are even expanding our rooftop garden and adding more cooking classes to meet the demand. Thanks again for all the advice. Sometimes standing up to bullies really does work out in the end. And the next one is an HOA pro-revenge story that you don't want to miss. And by the way, if you've watched until here, I would very much appreciate appreciate it if you could post some star emojis in the comments if you want to show your support. When I moved into my suburban neighborhood, I expected peace and quiet. Instead, I walked into a petty dictatorship run by our HOA president, Todd. Todd was the worst kind of leader, the kind who loved power but hated accountability, which, by the way, sounds like every HOA ever, and he enforced ridiculous rules like fining people $200 for leaving their trash cans out a minute past 9 AM but blatantly ignored the rules when it suited him. His own yard was a mess of unpermitted structures and his fence was taller than allowed by city ordinances. But Todd's true sin? Using the HOA as his personal piggy bank. At first, I tried reasoning with him. My fence was slightly off color because the approved stain was not available and he fined me $500. I explained, provided receipts and asked for leniency. Todd smirked and said, "Rules are rules," and walked away. That is when I decided that I would take him down, not with screaming or public arguments, but methodically, legally, and in a way he would never recover from. Step 1. Become the inside man. Todd's first mistake was underestimating me. I volunteered for the HOA board under the guise of wanting to get involved in the community. I played the part of the eager, naive newbie perfectly. For 2 years I attended every meeting, quietly observing how Todd operated. I learned that he controlled the board by bullying other members and burying them in paperwork. He would push through votes when only his allies were present and conveniently lose paperwork submitted by dissenting homeowners. I kept my head down, took detailed notes, and waited. My goal was to outlast his term as president, so I could begin making changes. Then I discovered Todd's second mistake. He was not just a bully, he was a thief. Step 2. Follow the money. Todd loved to brag about how he kept the HOA's finances in order, but something did not add up here. The annual HOA fees were high, much higher than in similar neighborhoods, but the common areas were falling apart. The pool was closed half the summer due to maintenance issues and the landscaping looked like it had not been touched in months. I started digging. As the HOA treasurer, Todd had access to all the accounts, but he was notoriously caggy about sharing financial details. I asked for the budget during a meeting and Todd laughed it off, saying, "Don't worry, I've got it under control." I filed a formal request for the financial records, which, under HOA rules, he was required to provide. Weeks went by with no response, and that's when I started talking to neighbors. It turns out I was not the only one suspicious. Over a dozen homeowners had requested access to the budget over the years, only to be ignored. One neighbor claimed that Todd had used HOA funds to install a new patio at his house, while another swore that he had seen Todd's kids at the community pool during its maintenance closure. Armed with these suspicions, I filed a formal complaint with the HOA board, forcing Todd to provide the records. He stalled, but I was not backing down here. Step number 3, build the case. When Todd finally handed over the financial documents, they were a mess. Invoices were missing, payments were mislabeled, and some expenses were downright bizarre. A $15,000 landscaping fee paid to a company that did not even exist. Thousands spent on administrative costs with no explanation. I cross-referenced the HOA's bank statements with public records and then found the smoking gun. Todd was funneling money to his personal accounts. Even better, I discovered that Todd had been inflating contractor fees, pocketing the difference, and splitting the profits with his buddy, a shady contractor who handled most of the HOA's maintenance. I compiled everything into a detailed report, complete with spreadsheets, photos, and notarized statements from neighbors who had seen Todd's antics firsthand. Step 4. The coup. I waited for the annual HOA meeting, which was typically a snooze fest attended by only a handful of homeowners. But this time though, I made sure that people showed up. I spent weeks knocking on doors, explaining what Todd had been up to. I did not share everything, just enough to get people angry and curious, and on the night of the meeting, the room was packed. Todd started the meeting like usual, droning on about how difficult it was to manage the HOA and how much he had sacrificed for the community. That is when I stood up. I calmly asked if he could explain some discrepancies in the budget. Todd was laughing nervously and said, "I don't think this is the time or place." I replied, "Actually, Todd, it's the perfect time." I handed out copies of my report to everyone in the room. The mood shifted instantly. People started reading, whispering, and then shouting. Todd tried to regain control, but it was too late. I called for a vote to remove him as president, and by the end of the night, Todd was out. Step 5. The final blow. After Todd was removed, we hired an independent auditor to go through the HOA's finances. They confirmed everything. Todd had embezzled over $50,000, mismanaged tens of thousands more, and committed multiple counts of fraud. We reported him to the police and filed a civil lawsuit to recover the stolen funds, but it did not end there. Todd's shady contractor buddy was also exposed and banned from doing business in the county. Todd had to sell his house to pay restitution and legal fees. His name became a running joke in the neighborhood and no one would touch him professionally. With Todd now gone, we restructured the HOA to prevent another dictator from taking over. We implemented term limits, required multiple board members to approve financial decisions, and created an online portal so all homeowners could access budgets and meeting minutes. The aftermath? Well, every time I walk past Todd's old house, now owned by a lovely family, I smile. The pool is open, the landscaping is beautiful, and the HOA fees are lower than ever. Todd, meanwhile, moved to a neighboring town, where he reportedly tried to join another HOA board only to be laughed out of the room when someone googled his name. Justice was not just served, it was plated, garnished, and savored. And the next one is a small petty revenge story. And by the way guys, if you still enjoy these HOA revenge stories, then please don't forget to like the video, because that would help me tremendously. My crotchety old man of a neighbor has harassed multiple families out of this neighborhood over the years and had been trying to do the same to me for the first few years I lived here. This included calling the police for everything, like my grass being an inch too tall, and once I've lived here for 9 years, and this is the story of how I finally got him to leave me alone a couple years ago. So basically, my final straw was that he put up a camera on his privacy fence on his deck that pointed directly into my backyard and refused to move it. He also threatened to shoot my dogs that were never outside alone and always either on a leash or in the backyard with me. Game on, dude, I finally had enough. So basically, I proceeded to sign his address up for every possible spam mail/emailing list I could find: the Satanic Church, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, Playboy, tons of other adult stuff, and lots of other places that would scare an older religious couple. And plus tons of other mailing lists. I spent like 5 hours just signing his address up for random mailing list stuff. I then had one of those anonymous 5-pound boxes of elephant poop sent to his house, and I know it got there because I was off work the day it got delivered. I feel bad that the poor mail lady had to have that in her truck for any amount of time in the middle of a heat wave in July in MO, but that was a sacrifice I was willing to make. I watched her carry it like it was a bomb to my neighbor's porch and practically throw it at their door. Stepped out into my carport to spy when my neighbor went to pick it up and heard their reaction. It was priceless, but I then got even craftier. I went to Wally World and picked up a little corrugated metal sign that was like 3 feet by 2 feet from the craft department, as well as some of those wooden letters, spray paint and construction glue. I proceeded to set up shop in my carport at like 11 at night, and that is only about 10 feet from his bedroom wall. All the houses are the same design on my street, so I know the master bedroom is on the wall closest to my house. And absolutely blast Avatar, a Swedish metal band that is awesome, at top volume with the speaker pointed at his house while crafting my little sign. I can see through the trees and between the houses to the next street over that you're required to take to get to my street, dead-end street, and kept an eye out until I saw a cop car coming. Turned off my lights and music and went inside for like 20 minutes. The cop did not even knock on my door because when he got there was no noise complaint to act on. After he left, I got back to crafting and blasting music. I made a sign that said F off, and once all the spray paint, letters and glue was dry, I hung it from an old swing set frame and pointed it at his camera that was watching my backyard. And to deal with the camera, well, you wanna be a creepy dude? Okay, I got you. I waited until like 1 AM the next night and then stripped down to nothing but my panties and stood in my backyard and stared at his camera for like 15 minutes straight in nothing but my undies. I don't think he enjoyed the view. The camera was taken down the next day. I have not heard a peep from that guy or gotten the cops called on me for nonsense since. And before we end the video, I will read one last malicious compliance story that is titled "That Time My Mom Appended the Dress Code for My Entire School." So when I was little, my mom sent me to a private/religious school. My family is not religious, but they felt like I would get a better education there. Also, when I switched to public school later, I found out they were right. I was pretty far ahead. This school had uniforms, boys wore button-down shirts with the school logo and blue slacks, and the girls wore jumpers. My mom hated cleaning and ironing these white button-down shirts every day. I was one of 4 kids. Kids play and get grass stains. The shirts were taking up a lot of her time. Finally, she gave up and bought a bunch of white polo shirts and started sending us to school in those. Admin had a conniption fit about it and brought her in for a meeting. They opened the dress code rulebook and pointed out that these shirts were missing the logo, so they were in violation. And by the way, guys, do you see any similarities here to HOAs? Maybe there needs to be a subreddit about private schools or something. Either way, my mom looked over the rules and confirmed that the lack of a logo was the only violation. They said yes, and she thanked them and left. And the school probably thought it was over. Just to be petty, they sent a school-wide memo regarding the dress code. My mom took every polo shirt and stitched a homemade school logo onto them. It was not hard to do, as the logo was just the school initials. The admin was furious, but during the next meeting realized that their hands were tied. The memo piqued the curiosity of other parents, and they started asking my mom where she got the new school shirts. Apparently, she was not the only one sick of ironing and getting grass stains out. Suddenly, I was not the only one wearing a polo shirt to school. The worst part for the school was that despite tuition being pretty expensive, they also had a kickback deal going with a local clothing store for the uniforms. The store had a monopoly on the sale of those shirts. When business started lagging, the store made their own version of the polos for sale. Eventually, the original shirts were phased out entirely. That was over 30 years ago, and my mom still loves telling that story. And yeah guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you again tomorrow.